Welcome to this week's Bible Topics discussion. We're glad you're with us today as we discuss God and government. Wow. Does God set up our government?
Well, as always, let's look at what God says in the Bible. We know that this is a touchy subject, but please remember that there are some things in the Bible that are very hard for us humans to understand and even to live by. Okay, here's our first scripture. Romans chapter 13, verse 1. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Now, if you're like me, you come to a screeching halt when you read this and ask, so God set up a government that has become divisive and full of people who say and do some of the despicable things that have been going on? That doesn't sound like my God.
Well, it says that God sets up the government. God set up a very good government for us, and man is supposed to run it like God set it up. But oftentimes, man's involvement just makes a shambles of it. God didn't set it up and then create us as little robots to run it like He says. God gave us a free will. And sometimes our free will throws a monkey wrench into things. That's how Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. They took advantage of their free will and messed things up.
Yes, they did. Let's go on with this Romans 13 scripture, verses 2 and 3, which says, consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right and you will be commended.
This doesn't sound right either, does it? As we said, the government is set up by God, but man's hand is in the running of it, and we're going to mess up sometimes. This verse says that if you rebel against the government, you're bringing judgment on yourself. Rebelling against what the government does right is what is meant here. But aren't there times when our government does something wrong, like passing a very bad bill, and we must rebel? Yes, God does not put His blessing on man's wrong actions and things that are not of God. For instance, making abortion legal is not of God and should be rebelled against. If you want to hear our discussion on abortion, check out our video number 163.
Our rebellion sometimes takes place in the form of voting, and sometimes it takes place in the form of action. This is easy enough to prove by going back and looking at the history of the United States when things were being done that our forefathers had to act against. It ended up involving the Revolutionary War, not a really great thing, but the last straw in getting government straight. God used King David similarly in the Bible when action needed to be taken. He knew that David would be obedient to carry out what God directed, and he did. There was war, but only because David consulted God and God told him to go forward with it.
Well, that's it for this week. Please like, comment, and share, and let us know if you have any questions. We would love to hear from you. You may want to keep today's discussion in mind as we move forward toward the upcoming election. See you next week. Be blessed.